Oh, hi guys, and welcome to the Gaming Vault. Today I am doing a review on Gran Turismo Sport. Okay, so let's just read the blurb on the back. It says, once again, the real driving simulator. From the first dizzying rush of acceleration to the last split-second finish, the real driving simulator is back. Experience the thrill of racing the world's fastest and most coveted cars, and vie for pole position on iconic tracks around the globe. Choose from a stunning selection of cars, each recreated with unmatched precision. Race in online competitions endorsed by motorsport governing body FIA. Live the race from right behind the wheel with PlayStation VR. Okay, so since this is a racing game, let's cover the handling first. So, if you compare it to the other big racing game creator, Codemasters, the cars have a lot more of a weighty feel, and you really have to brake early. It is true though that, in saloon car racing you do generally have to brake earlier than you would in an F1 car, but in particular this game, it's very easy to go wide. That's just the way the handling is, and I think it actually was the way it was in the original Gran Turismo. So the game features a fair selection of accurately modelled cars. Pretty sure that Forza, the latest Forza, has more cars. However, the attention to detail and the 3D models in this game are very good. You get every wing, inlet and bumper. Okay, so let's just cover some of the basics with this game. I found the GUI in the main menu a little bit confusing. I wouldn't say it was particularly intuitive, but perhaps that is partly down to a culture change because it is a Japanese developer. But yeah, I struggled to do a few things which just seemed to be laid out in, I don't know, a way where it could have been a lot simpler. So the car selection, although not huge, is pretty good. I would say the track selection is more of an issue. There are only, half a dozen real circuits, and then in all I think there are around 30 different circuits, but that includes different versions of the same location, so it doesn't have a huge amount of depth in terms of track. However, they've already added new cars since the release, so presumably they might add new tracks. I tend to prefer the real life tracks such as Brands Hatch and Nürburgring, especially the full version of Nürburgring called the Green Hell. That was the one where Lauda had his horrific crash. It's a great track. That it's pretty hard to learn, but it's pretty fun to drive. So having that in the game is definitely a plus, because that was one thing Forza had over this game. Although I do prefer real life tracks, there were a few that I really enjoyed that were fictional, from the first Gran Turismo games when I was still a pretty young teenager. I really enjoyed in that game the tracks called Trial Mountain and Deep Forest Raceway, and then including the Tokyo track, which I think they have actually added a sort of homage to that in this. There is a Tokyo track. I would just like to see maybe some more of the classic non-real life tracks. I'm not really feeling the ones that they've put in. I think they generally lack personality. So the main game mode, which is the campaigns, a very watered down version of the campaign from Gran Turismo 1 and 2 on the PlayStation 1. I don't know why they got rid of the challenge and the building your car from a very cheap car to you needing one of the quickest cars in the game to complete it. And I really enjoyed that, but for some reason they didn't bring it back in depth. There is a similar mode, but it's just not anywhere near as deep, and there's not particularly much of a challenge. You will find a greater challenge playing online. However, there are such things as the driving school mode, which can be quite fun, trying to get a gold platinum rating in all of those, and the challenge mode is also quite good, and it definitely adds longevity to the game. Okay, so really, as you probably have already guessed, the online mode is where it's at with Gran Turismo Sport. It's the best mode to play. You will find a very stiff challenge actually. Most players seem to be quite seasoned at racing games, or maybe that's just because I'm a poor driver, but who knows. The only downside is that the online, the lobby mode is a bit of a mess, but I find just playing on something called the sport mode is more fulfilling anyway, and it actually recognizes if you've done a good performance. You kind of, the whole world sees your name up in lights. But more so if you enter championships. They actually have championships where you will come in and drive at a particular time. It's a bit like Project Cars Lite, so to speak. If you're not going to buy that huge expensive racing rig, yet you do want some sort of online glory, there's certainly a bit of that here, and I have yet to discover the full extent of that, but I must say it's very promising, and it's good that the Livery Editor mode on the game, it's actually brilliant, and they've made a lot of attention to detail with symbols, signs, numbers, etc., sponsors. So yeah, it is a bit like here's one that I made earlier. You can also share your liveries online, and I've done that, and I have had quite a few good likes because I spent time and I actually recreated cars from real racing series. It's just awesome. This, I mean, there's been several games similar to this, but they just haven't quite made the grade. Grid Autosport also allowed some amount of customization, but it was very limited. This game is great for online customization. So another thing with the online mode, it does grade you as to how clean you are, and you can't actually get online without watching the tutorial videos, which are a bit similar to the Martin Brundle videos if you ever go to Daytona karting. It's not really a big deal, they're only 2-3 minutes each, and I didn't even watch them. But there is an old expression that the law was made for the lawless, so I think, as myself, I try and race clean. It's not always completely possible. You'll find yourself bumping people a little bit, but there is a strong difference between not doing it on purpose and actually just leaning on someone into a corner. That's very dirty, and you do unfortunately still get quite a lot of dirty drivers. Now, as far as real world discipline goes, I think they go too far. I think the likes of Formula 1 are just completely over-regulated now. But that said, in the game world, it's not unusual for people to just go straight on at corners and take someone out, because vindictively take out someone who is driving quicker than you, and that's where the ghosting comes in quite handy. If the guys, certain drivers, panel bashing in the early parts of the race, it won't be long before their cars will become ghost-like. It's not totally infallible. You still do get dickheads that take advantage, and generally you do have somewhat of a 50-50 divide between the sort of more fair drivers and the arseholes. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect myself. I have made mistakes and I have knocked people off, but I never do it on purpose. It's just sometimes it's difficult when you hit the braking marker a little bit after them. I think the key is that you've got to try and understand the other's perspective as your own. So I think I've already mentioned many of the criticisms. One of the other ones is that you get a time penalty sometimes for cutting corners, but that is perhaps a little bit too strict at times. Also, like I said, it's better to have like stricter rules online because it's a totally different context to real life. In fact, in real life racing, I would say is too strict, but if anything, online racing is too liberal because it really is frustrating when some dickhead rams you off. So I've seen a lot of people complaining about some of the bad points of this game. To be honest, I think there is a complaining culture these days. Any like good game, popular game, such as Call of Duty, you know, the sales do the talking for the Call of Duty series, yet people always used to slate it as being unrealistic, which in some cases, yes, it was somewhat unrealistic, but you know, people are buying it. It's obviously a good game, and it's kind of the same here. I mean, this is a very strong racing game, but people don't always appreciate that, and the easy answer is, well, go and join the development team and make a better game yourselves. So yeah, I think the bitching is getting a bit out of hand at times, and as I said, it's monkey see, monkey do. So yeah, there's no need for it really. And what I will say also is Polyphony, a Japanese studio, they really know how to make good graphics and a really fun gameplay. Gran Turismo has always had good graphics, and I would say this is more or less no different. I'd say probably it has among the the smoothest graphics on the PlayStation 4 as of late. It blows quite a few non-driving games out the water in that respect. Okay, so yes, overall this is a very enjoyable game. I could see myself playing the online mode for quite some time to come. It's quite addictive. In fact, it's kind of similar to Call of Duty, a totally different genre, but it has a very addictive quality when you get online. The only annoying things are, as was the same with the Grid series, it's real life tracks, but obviously they have to pay the track owners to use those. Everything else pretty darn good. Obviously Gran Turismo is not a title that really has a damage engine. I think it has, in this case, you can damage your car quite badly, but not visually. The visual damage never goes beyond scratches really, although that's not such a big deal. You can, if someone goes off a corner and their car doesn't go into a million pieces, it's not really the end of the world. But that said, it would be nice to have a damage engine such as Codemasters have on most of their saloon car racing games. Even as far back as the PlayStation 1, Codemasters have always really been the king of damage models. Well, them and the sort of Grand Theft Auto games, although of course that was a different genre. So yeah, I mean, this is really good, but the only thing I would say, perhaps more tracks, a track editor maybe, if they allow that, might be cool. So yeah, but the thing is, obviously with games these days, there is always scope for updates. Sometimes you get, I think this game already actually has added some more cars free of charge, and there may be paid for DLC. So of course the game can always get better and always have more depth, and a lot of people are complaining about glitches within the online rules. So yeah, there's potential for it to get better these days. It's difficult to review a game now. So anyway, at the moment I would give it an 8 out of 10, and I would say over time, perhaps if they just patch some of the slight issues, it should be a pretty solid 9. So kudos to Polyphony Digital, and I'll see you on the track. Goodbye.